The English Channel. 21 miles across, cold water, swells, currents. It is one of the ultimate tests of endurance. But just how hard is it?
Obviously, the best way to measure that is to try it. But we're not going to do that. Not yet, anyway. But we are going to speak to a few swimmers who have swum the channel, some who are planning to do it this summer, and if I'm feeling brave, I might actually dip my own toes in the channel waters behind me.
Lewis called this the Everest of swims.
Suffering severe cramps, she had to be carried out of the water.
So when I started, I wasn't sure I could make it.
He has 9 children. American and Royal Air Force planes aid in the search, abandoned after 30 hours with no sight of Ted May.
An entry into the record books.
But ahead there's the menace of attacking fish, the threat of rain and high seas.
Swimming across the English Channel from England to France, 20.9 miles or 33.7 kilometers wide, at its narrowest point, has long been one of the ultimate challenges in endurance swimming.
But somehow he found the strength in his aching body to punch through the wind and waves.
A guy called Jonsson actually claimed to have swum the distance back in 1872, 153 years ago. He left from here in Dover to much fanfare, swam out there towards France, arrived in Calais many hours later to a very excited crowd, only to admit a few hours later that he had only swum about an hour out, hopped on a boat, got all the way across, and then hopped back in the water to swim the last little bit into the beach. Cheeky scoundrel. The first successful solo swim was actually completed just a few years later, in 1875, 150 years ago, by this guy, Captain Matthew Webb, who swam from here in Dover across to Calais in 21 hours and 45 minutes, using mostly the breaststroke. He proved that it was actually possible to swim across the channel, and as a result, he became an international celebrity. I even got a statue in his name.
51 years later, in 1926, Gertrude Edel, an American, became the first woman to swim the English Channel.
Judy on her way to fame as the first woman to conquer the current of the English Channel.
She also beat the men's record by nearly 2 hours, completing the swim in 14 hours and 34 minutes, a feat made famous recently by the movie Young Women in the Sea. Incredibly, in the 150 years since that first crossing, only 1,975 people have made the crossing, with at most 50 to 100 names added to the list each year these days. The Channel Swimming Association, the CSA, was founded in 1927 and began officially recognizing and regulating channel swims, ensuring standards and safety. Today, swimmers must follow strict rules. No wetsuits, only a standard swimsuit, goggles and a cap are allowed, and swimmers cannot touch the boat or another person during the entire swim.
So why don't more people manage to swim the channel? I mean, pretty much all swimmers these days are better than a guy 150 years ago doing breaststroke. Well, behind me on the beach are a bunch of swimmers who are planning to do it this year. So let's go find out what their motivations are, what their preparation looks like, and why they're doing it. Why are you swimming the channel?
Do you know what? I think it's, for me personally, it's about pushing my boundaries, about setting goals. So this is my goal for this year, and this is just about doing something special and just added to the Aspire and actually how I can support charities as I go through my goals as well.
How long did it take you, and what was the hardest part?
It took me 15 hours and 26 minutes. I would say the first couple of hours were quite tough, just the mental thing of being in the water. I swam overnight, so I knew I had the whole night to swim, and the first couple of hours, and then the last couple are always tough because you can see it, but it doesn't get any closer, and you know that's where it could go wrong.
What did your training look like? What was your peak mileage? How many hours were you doing a week? How much time in the sea versus how much time in the pool?
Over the winter it was all pool-based with a bit of dipping, and then in the summer it was hitting the sea as much as possible and doing as many back-to-back swims as much as possible. So peaking, it's really about time in the water, so doing a 7-hour and a 6-hour back-to-back. And again, it isn't really a physical thing. I found the mental part of being in the water for that long on your own, the difficulty. But you break it down and you break it into chunks and you make it manageable.
And what does the training look like then? What did your training look like for a channel swim? How many hours a week are you swimming? How many miles a week are you swimming? And when did you start the preparation? Was it 18 months out, or was it six weeks out? Where were you starting?
So I started in April of the year, of that year, seriously training. 4 weeks out of the swim, I built it up to 4 weeks out of the swim, doing a 6 and an 8, or rather an 8 and a 6. So 8 hours on the Saturday, 6 hours on the Sunday, and then I tapered down. But it was every single weekend, Saturday and Sunday swimming.
As you can tell by speaking to those people, the training looks very different for different people, but for most people, it's a commitment of somewhere between 12 to 18 months. Obviously, you also have to build your cold exposure and your tolerance to cold, which is something that can be trained by pretty much anyone, but does take quite a lot of time. You can't just do it in one day. You have to gradually build up and get into colder and colder water for longer and longer periods. You also have to learn to cope with the salt water, the swells, the chop. You definitely have to learn to breathe on both sides. This is a long commitment to get prepared to swim the channel. It's not just a matter of turning up, renting a boat, and diving in at Dover to swim east until you hit France.
Well, you could do that, but it wouldn't be very safe. And it wouldn't count. You wouldn't make it onto a list of 2,000 or so swimmers who have swum across the English Channel. Nope. To do that, you have to do a certified swim, certified by the CSA. And before you can do that, you have to do the assessment test. If that sounded scary, that's because it is.
The qualification swim for an individual attempt to swim the channel involves a single swim of 6 continuous hours in water under 16 degrees Celsius, 61 degrees Fahrenheit, in the kit you will wear in the attempt, i.e. goggles, cap, and a swim costume only. It is possible that your channel swim will actually be warmer than 16 degrees Celsius, but it certainly won't be shorter than 6 hours. There is no distance requirement. You could just bob around in the water for those 6 hours, but that would probably be a lot colder.
If all this seems a little much, there is another way you can swim the channel, sort of, by doing it in a relay. Aspire, a spinal cord charity, organizes the Channel Swim Relay every year, and they organize the boat and the teams, which consist of up to 6 swimmers, each swimming 1 hour on a rotation basis. No skipping, no doing some of or all of another person's leg, and no swapping order for the whole time until you get to France. There's one catch, however. Although your swim is only going to require you to swim 1 hour every 6 hours to get across the channel, you also have to do an assessment swim, which consists of 1.5 hours in the water, followed by 1 hour out the water, and then another hour in the water, which is arguably significantly harder than the actual swim across the channel itself. And all that has to be done in skins in under 16 degree water, which is what a lot of the people that are here today are doing. And I'm going to join them and see how long I can stay in the water for. I told you I was going to show you how hard swimming the channel is. Disclaimer, don't try this at home, or at Dover, or anywhere. Cold water is dangerous, and the way to train for it is not to just throw yourself into it until hypothermia sets in, like I'm about to do. Here we go.
At dawn's early light, the hardy swimmers can be seen stroking toward the English coast. I could turn around and do it again. They take their grub as they can and swim on and on and on.
Bark is coming ashore where black slippery rocks make footing difficult.
The dangers of cold water don't end when you get out the water though.
After drop is when your body temperature continues to drop even after you get out of cold water and into a warmer environment. So you can feel colder 10 or up to 40 minutes after you exit than you actually did in the water. As you swim, your body shuts down circulation to your skin, pooling warm blood in your core, allowing you to stay in the water for longer. But when you exit the water, the cooling process does not stop straight away. This cold layer of skin and muscle continues to cool your blood and therefore your core. And you can lose up to 4.5 degrees Celsius from your core temperature, bringing on shivering, hypothermia, or feeling faint and unwell long after you got out the water.
Well, swimming the English Channel is clearly a massive undertaking, far bigger than I ever anticipated it would be. Now that I've learned a little bit more about it, it's a massive physical challenge, of course, but it's also a massive mental challenge, overcoming the cold water. And then, of course, there's a logistical challenge just to get you to that start line. There is so much that has to be arranged, and of course, so much that has to go right that you can't control, like the weather. Clearly, I have a lot of respect for everyone of the 1,975 people who have swum across the channel and the rest of them who are actually going to do it this year. It is a very impressive feat. I only spent 10 minutes in the water today, and in a way, it was kind of tolerable. That 10 minutes, I'm kind of impressed with myself. But that is a long way off the 6 hours I'd have to spend in that just to prove that I have what it takes to start the attempt to swim the English Channel. I'm not sure I could ever do that. But maybe Team GTN could do a relay. You know, each of the teams swimming an hour each until we get to France. What do you guys think? Do you think we should do that? If you do, leave it in the comment section down below. Let us know your thoughts. Maybe in 2026 GTN will swim a channel relay. But for now, I'm just going to tip my hat to all those people who are swimming the channel this year, all those people who have done it in the past, and even those relay teams who are doing it for a good cause, for Aspire, to raise money for spinal cord injuries. Yeah, respect to everyone. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have, hit the thumbs up button. Thanks for watching. I'm gonna go get warm because 10 minutes has left me hypothermic.